I don't know.
Action. No, literally, you just spiked it now.
Oh.
3 times.
Spike! Okay, you just want one?
No, well, now it's too late, Josh. It's fine.
Is it really too late?
Well, it's done. I would have to stop it and start it, and I'm
I
too
don't
lazy
know.
to do that.
I'm a little worried now.
You know, it's funny. I feel like it was just yesterday we were here doing this.
Really?
Oh, wait.
You
Welcome
know,
back.
that brings up a very good topic that I'd like to talk to you about. Something called worry.
Well, I can't. I feel like we talked about this.
You know? Yeah.
But I'm sure we didn't.
we did. Well, let's talk about it again.
Okay.
So, what do you worry about? Oh, I'm still Josh. And he's
Still Danny. Still Josh.
Okay.
We got to remember that.
Okay.
What do I worry about? Just like on a daily basis.
Now, what are you worried about right now?
I mean, honestly, kind of ironically, I'm almost less worried right now than I was before because I have so much less responsibility. Because I think that's one thing I stress over the most is responsibility, because when I like commit to something, I take it very seriously, you know? And so because I don't really have work, I don't have events, I don't, you know, I don't really, I'm not really accountable for anything except getting out of bed in the morning. And even that, you know, it's like really, but worry, I would say, is just, obviously there's like the overarching, what's going to happen with this, you know, the issue with rights and all that. So that, obviously that's a worry that I have, but just on a level of just myself on an everyday thing, like really, I don't have much of anything. I mean, sure, I would like my family to stay healthy, obviously, but then again, that also goes, that like that's a whole nother conversation in itself about the severity and all that. But I think, yeah, the biggest worry I have is just probably making sure I'm connecting with my family while I'm here, because that is a big thing right now. I have noticed is when you're with them so much now, it's you kind of have to you either are going to kind of ignore them, or you can deeper your relationship, right? And that's kind of where I'm at. And so, yeah, honestly, besides that, like I really don't have much right now. So yeah, it is cool. It is.
One of my favorite songs is, the Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
No, okay. But that that choice, the Bible kind of offers us a little bit different of a choice, where it's worry versus peace a lot of time. Worry is always trying to get you hyper focused on the what ifs, the maybes, or well, that didn't work before, or oh, don't take a risk, or sometimes even self-preservation, where you're like, well, I'm just really worried that if I do this, I won't have this, and always kind of will focus on the lack, or maybe what you wouldn't get. And it can create stress and anxiety, or some people have phobias. Some people have legitimate things that they're scared of. Some people have been through a lot of really, really difficult things that can create pockets of their life that are very prone to worry and anxiety and all that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting that Jesus went after it. Jesus went after worry and really addressed it pretty head on, and used some neat illustrations as far as like, hey, look at the flowers, look at the birds, look at this, like all these things are naturally taken care of and are naturally being sustained by God because he cares about them. And then adding to that, like, and I love you even more than these.
Yeah.
And I care about you even more than this. And so allowing God's peace to come in and reign and dispel some of those things is, I think, the first key to, if you struggle a lot with worry, or if you've been struggling a lot with worry, that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you anything like that. But God has called us to something more. And God has called us. Jesus himself said, don't Don't do that. Don't be about that. And so if Jesus is saying don't do something, we shouldn't do it, right? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And but it's also something that we're constantly faced with each day, because every news story, sometimes the stories and even the songs and the stuff you're seeing on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it's built to create a worry or a concern or a anxiety, or
I mean,
are you
we've
worried?
seen the whole past couple months has literally been built to terrify
it's this
people.
constant. Sorry, I keep touching my nose.
You need to sneeze, Josh? Just
No,
go ahead.
I don't need to sneeze.
Are you sure?
I can't. No, I won't sneeze. Right. Sometimes I'm out in public. I have allergies, and I'm out in public, and my nose starts getting itchy, and I'm like, uh-oh. There's an inch of pollen on the ground, right? And I'm
Right.
gonna sneeze, but I'm worried that if I sneeze, people are gonna think I got the Rona, And it's
Yeah,
like-
that's true.
and so, anyways, that's my worry. Real talk, right?
Fair enough.
But Jesus is reminding us to not worry, to not let the worries and the anxiety consume us. Instead, be filled with God's peace. Instead, go after the things that God has for us. And the interesting thing I've found with God's peace is when it says peace beyond understanding, right? It's beyond comprehension. It's beyond what we think is even possible a lot of times. When God's peace comes into the situation, it does something to us that we almost don't fully understand.
Yeah.
It settles us in such a way that we're like, wow, okay.
Right. I think it's like that feeling of truly something you could not achieve on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the same with, forgiving someone that sometimes is very difficult and you probably couldn't do it on your own, but then through God, you're able to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that feeling of like peace we talked about,
Yeah. Because even with this, like what I'm not talking about in this, and what I don't fully think that the scripture is talking about here, I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm not talking about clinical anxiety, anything like that. Like some of you guys, really all of us have in this season faced it one way or the other. But some of you guys, that is a medical condition, and I'm not coming against that with this. I'm saying, like, worry about what you're wearing, worry about what you're going to eat, worry about tomorrow. Those things we're called to not engage in, to be like, hey, don't fret about that. And that's really what a lot of us as humans can get consumed with is, where am I going to eat? Where am I going to get this? What am I going to do here?
Chick-fil-A.
Exactly. Chick-fil-A all the way. And if you look at it as like, worry versus peace, right? If there's a battle going on, there's weapons, right? And like I talked about before, worry, the weapons are like, what if?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe, and well, that didn't work, so don't ever do that again. Don't ever risk, It's too scary. It's too whatever. Those are the weapons that worry will throw.
Right. Yeah.
Peace has weapons of truth, thanksgiving, prayer, especially if it's God's peace, and it's something that transcends our understanding. So it's kind of like the super boost of, if you're really gonna kick worry to the curb, you have to have the peace of God. It's the worries are gonna consume you and kick you out of the race if you don't have God's peace. Yeah. And I think that's pretty clear in Scripture. But one of the ones I wanted to read you guys is Philippians 4, 4 through, let's say, 7. So, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. You'll recognize this verse too, but it's in context right after that. Going into 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. You got those two things going on there in that theme. Both of those verses we hear so often, and sometimes people will, spout it out and everything like that. But when you see them both together like that, you kind of get that context of like, whoa, okay, I need to be thinking about these things. I need to be focused on these things. And when I focus on the things that I don't have, or when I focus on the things that aren't going right, when I focus on the things that scare me or really can stir that stuff up, I start to lose sight of God's peace. And it's that peace from God that surpasses all of that understanding. And the worries, again, are constant. Food, clothing are popular, but people, your job placement, money, all that kind of stuff, people will worry about that. And Jesus was going after that a lot in his ministry and talking to people that were like, well, what about this and what about that? Just like, hey, lay that stuff down, and don't worry, don't stress about it. And because worry and anxiety, they're going to be part of our life, not in like our day-to-day stuff, right? But in our day-to-day, like we're going to be reminded daily or have the opportunity to worry and get anxious about something every single day. Yeah. But in that, we also have the opportunity to have God's peace reign in our hearts and determine how close we let that worry and anxiety get to our heart. So, what do you think about that?
I mean, the part about that I love is when it says the peace that transcends all understanding. And it's like you were talking about, and how we touched on how you don't even fully understand it, and you at least in this lifetime you won't be able to. We cannot fully understand the peace, and so again, with human nature, that's why it's so hard to let go. It's because we're like, no, I need to hold on to this for my own like survival or whatever, which is completely obviously not true, but if we can just let go of that long enough to, grasp onto God fully, like that's when you're able to understand, or not understand it, but feel that, and you at least you understand why. Like you understand why people were able to do this. It's because God's peace is overall. Like there's
and again transcends our understanding. You guys remember the story with Peter and walking on water? Real popular story, right? People oftentimes will look at that story and they'll think, man, Peter, you're such a loser. Like you saw the waves and you freaked out, right? The waves and everything were going before that.
Yeah.
And Peter said, hey, Lord, if it's you, call me out and I'll step on the water. And he did it. There was, for a brief moment, a human being defied the laws of physics and walked on water with Jesus because he let that peace in. Yeah. He let that peace in that was beyond his understanding. Like it made no sense for him to get out of the boat and do that. That was ridiculous. Yeah. There was nothing that, all the worries, all the fears, as an experienced fisherman, as an experienced sailor in those waters, like they were all scared. They were all worried. They were all freaking out. And in the midst of that, he's like, no, I recognize him. Call me out. I'll come join you. Right. Now, when he was out there, he started to get more consumed with that and he started to sink. Right. But I think so often we miss that really cool part of like, whoa, there was a moment where he had complete trust and faith in Jesus, and that peace was reigning in his life, and he was able to walk on water. Yeah.
I love that idea of, when it says like, but for a moment he took his eyes off Jesus, right? It's like, things Christians do and the way Christians are to live is so foreign, obviously, to everyone else, and that's what sets us apart. That's what makes us stand out, and that is, again, like this whole theme is that it's because without Christ you can't comprehend it. It doesn't make sense. Like, and again, if there was no God, like, it wouldn't really make sense not to live for yourself, because if there's nothing else, then I guess. But because you have that vision and you have your focus on Jesus, you're able to walk through that and be that light and that example. And so, I've always loved that story. I think it was probably one of my favorites growing up for that reason of just that picture of, keeping your eyes on the prize, if you will, which is Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that even in retelling that story this time around too, that you guys, that we can all latch on to. Okay, let's not be too quick to jump on, you know, beating up Peter and being like, "Oh, you're a loser. Oh, you had less lack of faith." Like, he had enough faith
Yeah.
in the storm,
Yeah.
with all of the knowledge that he knew from being on you know, fishing those waters for years, to be like, this is a bad storm. This is a doozy, right? He had that moment of clarity to look out and be like, wow, but that guy's better, right? And when you're right. When he took his eyes off and saw the waves and everything like that, he started freaking out. But it's like, okay, hopefully we can remember that in whatever season we're going through, when we stay focused on Jesus, there's going to be that peace that surpasses all understanding, and there's going to be that calm that comes in that, which is just crazy. I can't tell you how many stories that I've heard from people that have been in really, really traumatic, horrible situations, but the peace of God has come into their life and brought them calm and clarity, and so much so that and sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's shock, right, where you're just like abnormally calm, but also sometimes that's God's grace in the situation, where if he's giving you calm and peace in the moment, like, okay, there's a time for grieving, there's a time for even freaking out about it a little bit, but sometimes God will bring that peace in just the right time, to where he'll be like, okay, they need to be calm right here. Like, mom needs to be calm right now. Dad needs to be calm right now. You know, we need to be calm for our family, kind of thing. Yeah. And that peace can dispel all those what ifs and all those freak out moments where otherwise they'd just be overwhelming. Yeah. And I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I haven't had those moments where the worries and the cares and the fears get the better of me, where I just start freaking out. I'm like, man, but what if this, and what if this, and what if they extend this, and what if they keep doing this, and what if, and I just get buried with it. I have to let it go. I have to let God's peace back in my heart, because if I don't, I lose. Yeah. You know, none of us like to lose. Do you like to lose? I don't like to lose, right? I don't like losing peace. When my peace gets lost, that's where I'm extremely vulnerable to all sorts of fears and concerns that I don't typically have. But when I let my guard down and I let go of God's peace, I start to sink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you take things into your own hands, that's when you. Yeah.
Yep. So, bottom line is, worry is going to always try to pull, or is going to often try to pull you away from God's peace. And peace has to come from God. Otherwise, it's going to be very temporal and conditions based. And we have to have a peace that transcends that and goes beyond our understanding, because a lot of the worries and a lot of the concerns that we have as humans are legitimate. Yeah. You know, if you're not worried about walking across the freeway, you're probably got something else going on, right? there's concerns. Yeah. But if you freak out every time you start your car up that you're going to be in a car accident, okay, maybe you need the peace of God to reign in your life and loosen that up a little bit. We can't be driven by those fears and those worries. They'll come at us, but the way that we can fight those and push those further away from us and out of our brain is with the peace of God. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add? Or?
Not really. I was just sitting here, though, as we were talking about like the walking on water. I was just like, isn't it beautiful how all these stories in the Bible, God has made like so relatable. And what I mean is, like, literally, we use, sinking and waves as a common expression of trial and tribulation in our lives. And it's like he literally paints this perfect illustration using like real things, but it's like, yeah, when you are sinking, who pulls you out? If you put out your hand, who pulls you out? God. It's like, if you have the faith to walk across the water, it's like, you will survive. And so, I don't know. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. We serve a good God, and he's got lots of good stuff for all of us in every season, which is encouraging. So, Danny, did you have a song or something you wanted to sing? Or no, you didn't have a song? I don't think you didn't want to end with a song? Or
no.
How about a workout routine? What's something that a good take home, like
Well, it depends for what, like like arms,
What about for
chest.
earlobes? Do you got any earlobe
So
workouts?
okay, yeah. Now this is one that you can't.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss, but the earlobe is actually like a very important muscle group that
I had no idea what I
and
was
so
getting
here's the
into.
thing, with your earlobe, like obviously, how do you work that? Now, some people have gauges to it, which is a big mistake. But here's why: is because think about it, you're taking out so much of the earlobe. How are you gonna work out? That's like removing your bicep. Why would you do that? So here's what you gotta do though. So you lay your head down like this, right? And you gotta like use your earlobe. Now it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. It doesn't look like I'm doing anything, but what I'm actually doing is slightly pushing up with my earlobe. It creates
Whoa.
resistance.
Yeah, I can see. Look, I can slide.
See,
this
see
piece
how
of
good that
paper
is?
underneath that?
Yeah, you see that? That's a quality earlobe right there.
Wow.
Anyways, you heard it here first. You can thank me later.
Yep. Earlobe bench press.
Yeah. Well, it's more of like an earlobe, like push up. Almost.
push up,
Or
okay.
it's more of really a plank. You're like creating resistance. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people do that when they sleep.
Yeah. So there is benefits to side sleeping because you know how they'll say, well, technically the best position is to sleep on your back, like for your back, but you won't have good earlobes. So really, it's up to you, but choose according to your own goals, I guess. Yeah. But anyways, we'll see you next time for another Thrive podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Ciao. До свидания. How do you say goodbye in Spanish?
Adios.
Oh yeah, adios. Yeah, that's it. Why would you ask me that?